We are here with the family of Shelton Sanders, who went missing in Columbia, South Carolina on June 10th, 2001. Can you tell us a little bit about Shelton himself?
Yes, Shelton Sanders is at the time that he went missing on June 19th, 2001, out of Columbia, South Carolina. He was 25 years old. Shelton was my middle brother. I have three brothers, and he was the middle son. And he was my everything. He was not just my brother, he was almost like a father figure, um, a, my confidant, my somebody that I can look up to, somebody that I can count on. I was only 11 years old when he went missing. So I saw him as that figure. Like, I inspired to find, get married to someone like him, someone that can lead me in the right direction. So my brother was an all around person. He could cook, he could clean, he liked cutting grass, he loved volunteering in the community, he was very active in the church. He was in the Boy Scouts, he loved football, he was a Dallas Cowboy fanatic. So he was very, very active at home and in the community. He was a student at University of South Carolina in Columbia. His major was information technology, and he was getting ready to graduate December 2001, 6 months shy of when he went missing. He was 6 months shy of his graduation, and he was looking forward to that. He was a systems manager at the neurobehavior psychiatry building on Bull Street in Columbia, South Carolina. So he enjoyed being, into computers, breaking down computers, fixing them up for the psychologists in that building. So that was IT was his baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss him so dearly, and he was taken away from me and my family at such a young age. And you know, Shelton was that person that put a smile on our face, and now we don't have that. We don't have him here. We don't have closure.
Right.
And so that's about my brother. We all miss him and love him. So.
Can you tell us about his disappearance?
Sure. Yeah. So on June 19th, Shelton was in school and he was working. So he was in summer school part time, working part time. And that particular day, he was prepping for his best friend's wedding. His wedding, Brian Gibbs' wedding, his best friend was going to get married and got married on July 14th, 2001. So, of course, before you have a wedding, guys and the gals, they like to have bachelor parties. So because my brother was the best man, he was the best man for that wedding. He took it upon himself to, let's scout for hotel rooms for the bachelor party. So, from high school, my brother was friends with a group of guys in Columbia, and they all went to college together at USC. So my brother volunteered himself to look for rooms. And then Mark Richardson, which is the suspect in this case, he volunteered to go with my brother to scout for hotel rooms that Tuesday evening, which was June 19th. So, around 6 p.m., my brother met up with him saying, I want to, after he got off school and work that day, he met up with Mark at another friend's house, and they said that, we're going to, check out some hotel rooms tonight. So I think they stayed at the friend's house on Howell Street in Columbia for a couple of hours.
Okay.
And then they decided to just drive one car. So Mark Richardson told my brother, I'm going to go back to my house because I believe he had just gotten off work. He said, been over here to this guy's house for a while. I'm going to go back to my house, change clothes, and then I'll meet you at my house. We'll just drive one car. So my brother leaves this other friend's house, goes to Mark's house. They get into one vehicle, and maybe it was around 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m. that night. And they got into one vehicle. They went to three different hotels, Embassy Suites, Wesleyan, and Residence Inn. They went to those three hotels in the Columbia area on I-26. And my brother used his card to reserve the room, not pay for them, just kind of like put them on hold, like a $50 hold or something. At that time, it was paying $50 to put it on hold. And then the groomsmen would come together, which were the friends, and decide, okay, this is the best hotel to get out of the three. So they didn't get a chance to get to that point because, of course, my brother went missing. But he did have all three of those hotels on reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about 9-ish, when they were going to those hotels, my brother called my parents back to the house to let them know that he was going to be late, that he was with Mark, scouting for hotels, and that he'll be home later. that was the last time my parents and my family heard from him that night. So after they, went to those hotels, reserved those hotels, went back to Mark Richardson's house, and they both came back there. And Mark Richardson said that after they got back to his house, my brother left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the neighbors of Mark Richardson said, we heard 3 gunshots that night around
Right.
11:30ish.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a statement that's saying that from Mark that my brother left. There's another statement from the next door neighbor saying they heard 3 gunshots. So that was the end of that. My brother did not come home that evening. It was around 3, 4 o'clock the next morning, June 20th. My parents woke up, out of their sleep, didn't hear my brother come in. My dad woke up to, a dream that he heard, my brother yelling, screaming for help, but that was just a dream. So it startled him, woke him up. He realized that the car was not outside. My brother was not home. He was getting, worried, but, he kind of, I guess, got himself back in the bed and then woke up 7 o'clock the next morning to get ready to go to work and noticed that my brother still was not home. So that's when my parents started calling law enforcement, just making calls like to friends, like, have you seen Shelton? Where is he? He didn't come home last night. So that was, June 20th day. The Sumter County Police Department told them, because my dad actually made the call to Sumter County Police Department. And the reason why is because Shelton was a resident of Sumter. My dad was also a magistrate judge in this building right here. So my dad worked with the Sumter County law enforcement. He knew those people. Those were his colleagues.
Right.
So he kind of trusted them, like, hey, I work here. I know you all. We live in this community. I trust that you'll find my son. And plus, he actually thought that my brother was on the way home and got into a car accident or something. So that's why the call was actually made originally in Sumter County.
Right, because the car was also gone.
Right, the car was gone. My brother was gone. So we didn't know. Well, my parents didn't know if my brother, was on the way home and then something happened. So my dad originally made the call to Sumter County. So they said, no, we can't we can't officially make a missing person report until 48 hours of him not being home, and which later we found out that wasn't true. So
Yeah.
So my dad waited 48 hours, June 21st, June 22nd, I believe, around those time frame. He made the official police report. My brother still hadn't come home. My dad had started instructing he's not my younger brother, but he's the youngest son. I'm the baby. So he instructed the youngest brother to start calling Shelton's friends, the people that were last seen with him. Have you seen Shelton? Have you seen Shelton? While my parents were calling law enforcement, jails, my mom was getting calls from school, his job. Nobody's, my mom was even calling hospitals, is there a patient named by Shelton Sanders? I mean, they were just like calling everywhere because it's not like my brother not to come home. He's going to call us, he's going to be late or he's going to show up. There is no reason, like, my brother loved his family so much, he wasn't going to not come home. So, Sumter made their police report. They started doing their investigation here in Sumter, calling, having people come in here to this building, making witness statements and stuff. So, that was about 2 years of that. The case just kind of sat, no progress, right? We got anonymous tips from 2001 to 2003, nothing. My dad worked very closely because he worked here with these folks. So, I mean, he was in meetings with them all the time, weekly. What's the updates? Have you heard anything? Has anybody called? And then people were giving my dad anonymous tips. Hey, we think your son is in this river. Oh, we think he's here. Oh, we think this person said. It was just so many anonymous tips coming in, right? So the kind of case is set. So April 26, 2003, this is when the big day comes. So there was a noise disturbance called into the Richland County Sheriff's Department at the Greenbrier Apartments. And when that noise disturbance was called, the Richland County Sheriff's Department came to that apartment complex, and there were a group of guys hanging out, playing loud music, sitting on a car with beer cans, and then they saw police. I guess they ran off. They checked the tags. The law enforcement checked the tags of that car, and voila, that was the car that was sitting there. My brother, that was tied to the missing person report.
Yes.
So
2 years.
2.5. Now the thing is,
And on a
the
random call.
dispatch in 2001, when they dispatched that area to find, that missing car, the guy that was supposed to, the dispatch guy, the security people that check their regional areas or their designated areas, they went to that apartment to check, but he didn't check the entire complex.
Mm.
So had he would have checked the whole entire complex at the time, we wouldn't have been here.
Spent that whole
The
time.
whole time not knowing. But he
Right.
said that he was one of the persons at the trial that came on the stand and said that he checked that apartment complex, but he did not go around to the back of the apartment complex. And so that's where the car was. It was towards the side back part, backed in to the park.
It was backed in.
It was backed in to the park. Yep, between building 18 and 20. So, when they found the car, Richland County said to Sumter County, well, the car was found in our jurisdiction, hand that case over to us. Sumter County did not want to give them the case because they were like, no, it's our case. We're the one who took it was a battle of the cases between the sheriff's departments.
Right.
So my dad had to get involved and beg, because my dad knew these people, and like, can you please give the case to Richland County so they can take over the case? So it took a year for that to happen. So
nothing is happening during that.
Gosh, the only thing that's happening is like Richland County is giving, because I kind of reviewed the case file and I saw that they were taking witness statements right after the car was found. So they re-interviewed all of the, Richland County did, once they found the car, they started making the case file of their own.
Right.
But they officially did not have the case because Sumter County did not want to transfer it. So they started making their own case file. They re-interviewed the witnesses, and then that's when Mark makes, his statement about, to the lead investigator, can I ask you a hypothetical question? Is there such thing as an accidental death in South Carolina? So the lead investigator says, we can explain that Mr. and Mr. Sanders just want to bring their son home. And he's put his hand in his head, palm of the hand in his head, and said, I can't do that. I've already went to his people's house and told them that I was trying to help them look for their son. And so the other investigator that was there, who actually stepped out prior to him confessing that, came back in the room. And then when the lead investigator tried to update him on what they discussed, Mark Richardson kind of did a 360.
Yep.
I didn't say that.
Yep.
So
was it recorded? Him saying
it was not recorded. He said at the time, I have asked law enforcement, I'm like, how is that not recorded? And they were like, at that time, it was not mandatory to record, but now it is.
But to ask that in an interrogation room about an accidental death is questionable.
That's right.
And his phone actually pinged at that apartment complex.
His phone, and so that was one of the questions.
Right?
They were like, how did your phone ping off of those towers? And
the night he went missing.
The night that Shelton went missing. And that was his alibi, was after Shelton left his house that night, he went to the laundromat to wash his clothes at 11:30, 12 midnight. He saw a prostitute named Rita Green, and somehow he rode with her. They got into an argument off of I-77, 277, and she kicked him out of his car. And then he walked to where his cell phone tower was pinged. So that was his story.
Yeah.
They couldn't run down that Rita Green lady. And
he had said that the gunshot was his
car backfiring. That's right. That's exactly right. So.
Now, that night that the neighbor did hear the gunshots, was that ever reported that evening?
No.
Or did that come out later?
It didn't come out until the law enforcement started interviewing yes. And I went back to interview the witnesses, and I talked to Mr. Busby. I went to his house, and he said he, regret that he didn't call the police, but he knows that he heard those 3 gunshots. But when he went outside to confront Mark in the dark, he said he couldn't see over the bushes, but he heard his voice and he said he didn't see any other person out there with him, but he said it was dark and there were bushes. But he said, Mark said, don't worry, that was just my car backfiring. And he said he didn't call the police. I said, dang. So it was like maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks or maybe a month, maybe within a couple of weeks during the time my brother went missing. That's when they interviewed, those witnesses, and they said they heard the gunshots. Then it was like, in the courtroom, I kind of read there when I was listening to them. He said, they they were trying to remember what day they heard the gunshots, but they said it had to have been a Tuesday because they do dancing on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
They had just came back in from dancing, so maybe it was a Tuesday. So when the jury heard that, I was like, oh, great. Gosh, it was just a lot of odds against us because they didn't make that call when they heard it.
Now, after that allegation that there was gunshots, was that apartment ever looked into or processed?
Nope. The thing is, they said there were 3 or 4 reports to the office management that car was sitting there, and they did nothing about it. Then when law enforcement found the car there in Richland County, they didn't even do any kind of swabbing around the area. They only knocked on the door at several people's house, several residents at the time, and they were asking questions, how long has this car been sitting out there? That's when they said they kind of reported it, but nobody did anything. But see, by 2003, the residents that were there in 2001 were already gone.
Right. There was no cameras there at the time, or
No,
they weren't looked into?
They weren't even, and if there were, they were probably already wiped out for 2 years ago. Yeah. Gosh, and you know what? That's the thing. It's like,
by the time it gets taken seriously, stuff like that is
already gone.
How well did he know Mark Richardson?
So they met when I questioned, because I was looking through like yearbooks, books at home, and I even saw pictures of Mark Richardson in our, my brother's scrapbook, and I was like, oh, this is from '93. So I was, I thought that they just met in 2000 or 2001, and so when I questioned Brian Gibbs, which was the groom, the groom that was getting married, he's my brother's best friend, and I was like, wait, did my brother knows Mark before? Like, explain to me how they met. And so he was like, listen, me, Shelton, and Marwin Frost, we went to Hillcrest High School together. We decided we were going to USC. Well, he believes that Shelton and Mark were in the same science class. And then they were also in the Macy dorm, campus hall, where the students live. And so I don't know if they were roommates at one time or just on the same hallway, but they had met mutually through other like friends.
Right.
In the summer. My brother got to USC in '93, so they must have met the freshman year of '93. In that fall of '93. So yeah, they were knowing each other about 7 to 8 years.
Do your parents ever remember him being around or like hanging out?
So he told my parents that he's been to our house several times. When my dad had him at the house that night, 2 or 3 days after my brother goes missing, he comes out to the house. He told my dad that he's been at our house several times, but my parents don't remember that stuff. Yeah, they're not gonna remember. They're not gonna. It's so many. My brothers have. It's 4 of us, right? Yeah. And then our brothers. Yeah. I was 11, so I didn't have anybody over. But my brothers may have had guys coming in and out, so they weren't going to be. They'll speak, but they're not going to try to get to know
remember every single face and their
exactly.
Name and their background.
Yeah, they may have came 1 or 2 times, but my parents are not going to remember. So
now that they had been seen on camera and by witnesses at the hotels reserving the rooms.
So that's the thing. They went law enforcement instead of asking for video surveillance. By the time they got to the hotel, they said even if we had video surveillance, they restart the next day or somehow they wipe out the next day or something. So by the time they got to them, it was already gone. But what they did was they took the picture of my brother and Mark and said, did you see these 2 or one or the other? And they confirmed that was my brother that swiped his card to reserve the room. So they did get the attendant that was on duty that night to confirm that it was my brother.
And that 10 p.m. was the last one that he was seen on camera, I believe.
Well, not camera. They said
that he was last seen.
Yes. I don't know if it was exactly at 10. Maybe, somewhere around in there. I wouldn't say right at 10, maybe 10:15.
But he had called his mom and told her that he was going to be home that night.
Yeah, that he was going to be late, right? That he was, taking care of some things, in Columbia, and that he'll be coming home late because he was not driving his car. That was my brother, the other brother's car, because Shelton's car was in the shop at Nissan in Sumter getting repaired. So he was using Edwin's, the
youngest of the boys.
The youngest of the boys. There you go. He's 10 years older than me, but he's the youngest baby. Yeah, he's the youngest boy. Yeah. So he was using his car as a means of transportation for that day because his car was supposed to get out of the shop that evening, June 20th. So my dad, was planning on picking up that vehicle either that Tuesday or Wednesday, because he had just put it in the shop that Monday. So they were kind of keeping it to repair the car.
Yeah.
So
did any of those people at the hotel say whether or not they noticed anything between them, if there was any kind of tension or arguments or weirdness?
I think so. I'm trying to remember because I believe one hotel said that it was just my brother in there, and maybe Mark stayed outside or staying in the car. And there was another hotel that said that Mark was in there, but he was kind of like just waiting in the lobby background, waiting for my brother to talk. But even if they did not I don't believe they wrote those in those notes about any kind of behavior. Or the only thing that was recorded was that, remember when I told you so my brother got off work that evening, Mark got off work that evening. They happened to, not coincidentally met, but they went to Wesley Young's, their mutual friend. They both went to their house. So my brother was originally supposed to go, Wesley Young was their other friend. He was the one that volunteered to go with my brother to go to scout for the hotels. Well, at the last minute, he said, him and his girlfriend made other plans that, he had to take a rain check. He wouldn't be able to go. So Mark was there and he said, well, since Wesley can't go with you, I'll go with you. So it was a last minute thing.
Right.
So the only thing that they heard was when they were walking out, getting ready to okay, let's go. We're getting ready to, I'll go to your house. We'll ride in one car. Is that when they went outside, something Mark must have said. And then my brother said, Mark, don't start that SHIT. Right. So so as I'm learning the case, I was told that Mark was not the same starting at the end of 99, the beginning of 2000 is when he started having these personality changes, right?
Okay.
So he would accuse his friends of trying to, are being after him, talking about him behind his back. Even if they put their hands in their pocket like this, he's like, what's in your pocket? Are you trying to pull out a gun on me? I mean, even if it's out just like this, he's paranoid, very paranoid. But they said it started like that in the end of 99, beginning of 2000. His mother and father kicked him out the house. That was on written statement from the mom and dad that he had personality changes, and so they told him to get out.
And that's why they kicked him out.
Right, okay. That's right. And that his dad said that he had those similar issues, but he grew out of it, so he didn't send Mark to the hospital or get diagnosed because he said he grew out of it, so he felt that Mark was having the same issues he was having. So it was some kind of personality change, but Mark would have even the youngest brother was saying that, the time that he was even around Mark, he would always constantly just complain about his life, always just going off to a drift about something that doesn't have anything to do with what they're doing, just constantly having troubles, talking about his problems or his troubles, being very, a little shifty a little bit. But then
hard to keep him on track.
You have to keep, put him back in the, in the present, because he will drift. And then there was this other person that called my tip line just last year who told me, around the time your brother went missing, I just called to let you know I saw your post or your flyer here. I had this everywhere, and they called the tip line and they said, Mark Richardson, if anybody knows anything, it'll be him and his brother, because Mark was going to Midlands Tech at the time our brother went missing. And he said Mark would come to class just pissed, drunk, just drunk all the time. So there was, I don't know what he was battling with, what he was struggling with, but there was something that he was just dealing with internally with all these personality shifts and drinking, consuming a lot of alcohol. So, but that, yeah, they were.
And you said that the tip came in that him and his brother.
Yes, because he said that when he was going to Midlands Tech, he said at the time Mark Richardson's girlfriend was his friend, right? He knew Mark Richardson's girlfriend before Mark Richardson met her. He went to her house one day just to, just talking to her, And when Mark came in and his brother came in the house, they were like, "What are you doing here? What you doing at my girlfriend's house?" And he was like, "Man, this is just my friend. I just came to see about her, to check on her." He was like, "Oh, okay, because you know me." He said that he looked at his brother and said, "Yeah, because we can do something to you, like that." And he was like, "Well, what you want to do? I'm right here." They were getting into like a little, almost about to get into an altercation. He was like, Mark just changed his mind real quick. "Man, I'm just messing with you. He ain't gonna do nothing to you." And so it was almost as if they done, the way he said it, he said the way they almost kind of like ganged up on him, if they've done something like this before. And his brother was also the one that picked him up that night, the night of June, that he got kicked out of the car with the prostitute. His brother was the one that picked him up.
Okay.
So it would have placed his brother also being in the area at the same time.
That's right.
And so what happened when it went to court?
So the trial was April 2008, and we sat in there. It was like the second or third, it had been the second week of April. We sat in there for a week and a day, and that was the first time that I had heard all of the information behind the case, the witnesses coming on the stand, giving all the details, and it was just emotional. I didn't hear anybody from the defense side come up on the stand. So just looking at him, because I still remember it to this day, he was sitting on this side in this lawn, and he just always had this blank stare. He never had any emotion. And I just, I was just thinking, like, how did we get here? How did this happen to us? So that's the only thing I could really, think about,
Yeah.
It was very emotional. And when we got the verdict that Monday, the next Monday, the following Monday, the 21st, 2 days before my birthday, it was a hung jury.
How long was trial?
A week and a day. So it was 8 days. Or no, Monday through Friday and then a Monday. So 6 days.
Yeah.
Had they gone back and questioned him since?
No. They said another problem is, so as I got into this case 2018, I started with this case and I started trying to find other resources that I can do to get involved and try to get what law enforcement was saying, we need a body, or we need a confession, or we need a witness that saw it. So I said, okay, we need a confession. Let me see if I can get people that wear those wires. Informant.
Yep.
Confidential informant. Yep. So I said, let me do that. And then they were like, okay, that's a good idea. If you can get somebody that can do it. So I said, the best person to do it will be the groom. Because the groom, Mark, was always just, of course he was shifty with him too. But out of the group of guys, I think he trusted him the most, and my brother. So, and he showed up at the wedding. He showed up at his wedding, even though my brother had just went missing. So I said, okay, Brian, if you can do that for me, that'll be great. So we were getting ready to set it up. So law enforcement went to check, I don't know what they went to go check his records to make sure he was still at the same house. So they happened to stun upon. They were like, oh no. And I had already went to law enforcement and I said, I don't see this arrest on his record. I told them this back in 2018, that I didn't see any records. They said, oh no, it should be there. Arrest doesn't never go away. It wasn't until 2022 this should have been in 2020 or 2021, when I wanted to do the informant. They were like, oh, he got the case dismissed and then got his record expunged. And when my family found out about that, we were pissed, because that was, as victims, we have our rights.
Right. No
one came to us to let us know that. So this had been done, 2 or 3 years prior to. This happened. He got the case dismissed in 2010 and his record expunged in 2011. And we had no idea. Under the radar, right. And his lawyer, the same defense attorney, did it. They did not come to us, tell us we were supposed to be at a hearing for that. We didn't get no kind of notice. It wasn't until I wanted to do the informant, and then that's when they went into the record to learn that information. So law enforcement didn't even know anything.
Did his story ever change from saying that they went their separate ways and he went home and they both went home?
He kept saying the same thing, that, that my brother went home and he went with the prostitute.
Right.
So now the only thing that I did was 2-3 years ago, I sent him a letter. I sent a letter to him, and I sent a letter to him, his mom, his brother and his sister, asking, letting them know we had a cash reward, we forgive them. I was saying all kind of stuff, just letting them know we just want to know where my brother's remains are. We don't have any vengeance against you. We don't wish, and we also said no time. We wouldn't even have any prosecution against you. We just want to know where my brother's remains are. Well, my private investigator sent him the letter. They recorded it on the cam. I watched the letter. I watched it. And he called the police on my private investigator and said that people were harassing him at the door. Well, the Greenville in South Carolina, Greenville's law enforcement called me and said, we they called the tip line, because I left the tip line number in the letter. They said, we have a call that came in from Mark Richardson. We talked to him and it said that when he was explaining us what was in the letter, he was like, are you, a suspect in a crime, or, defendant in a crime? He said yes. And he was like, they were like, listen, that's between you and them. We're not getting involved with that. You need to give the family the answers that they deserve. Yeah. And that was it. I was like, wow, it was like law enforcement was on our side. I was like, way to go. Yeah. So that was that, you know. But other than that, honestly, I did I checked SLED report on him maybe a year and a half ago, and then he had a DUI on his record. And then I saw that he moved out of the girlfriend's house that he had been with for so many years since the trial, or even before the trial, and they're not even together. He's in another residence, the same residence where I was putting all these flyers and posters everywhere, because I was going around Greenville putting flyers everywhere, and now they're not living together. So law enforcement told me just last month that they reached out to her last April, and she said, I'm not in liberty to talk to you, and hung up right in their face. So I was thinking, dang, if y'all are not together anymore, then, but I guess they have kids together, and maybe she doesn't want, I don't know what her story is, but she never would cooperate with law enforcement.
Now, has either of their vehicles been checked or anything?
No. Law enforcement feels like, they dismissed. See, that was their line of release. Once they found that out, and I just thought maybe if I would have not said anything about the informant, they would have never known. But since they've learned that information, it's like, they don't want to touch him. They don't want to, because he got his case dismissed. They're scared now. I'm like, one minute it was
still information.
Right. 1 minute before they found out that he had dismissed the case, they felt like he was under representation from a lawyer. Well, the only people that are really trying to reach out to him is like you all and like other podcasters, or like y'all are badasses. Like y'all don't care. What? Law enforcement is the one that's like, oh no, we don't want to. No, we're scared. I'm like, y'all are the one with the badge and the gun. What do you mean you scared? Why are you scared? I mean, y'all are the real MVPs that are going out there, like really finding closure and justice for
trying
us.
To find any answers we can to bring to families.
And that's backward. I'm just like, how is that even like? I'm just like, kudos to y'all, because the people who have the license.
You and his voice.
Right.
I mean, having a voice for them is one of the most important things, to having someone take that.
I appreciate it.
To them.
Yeah, I sure did.
Absolutely.
And the forgiveness behind that letter is very admirable.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've tried. I was like, well, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how to get to him. I mean,
and there is a reward
for $50,000. That's right. Yes.
And do you have a Facebook page?
Yes. So it's Finding Shelton Sanders. is his Facebook page, private Facebook page and a public page, and then Instagram, Twitter, I think it's called X now, and his email address, findingsheltonsanders@gmail.com, and then his tip line that I manage now, because I got that tip line because we missed out on millions of tips that came in, because when I read through that case file, I saw so many anonymous tips. They said, well, we tried to reach out to law enforcement, but nobody answered our call or took us seriously.
Right.
So that frustrated me. I said, cut the law enforcement out.
Yeah. Was anywhere ever searched by law enforcement or by
now they are now. The South Carolina and the ones that do the planes, the drones. Not the drones.
Search and rescue.
Search and rescue. No, not them. Gosh, what is this department called that does send the divers out? Wildlife or something like that. They did a couple of searches in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Now, recently, since I've gotten on the case since 2018, now they're using cadaver dogs at the Richland County Sheriff's Department, the coroners. They're using their ground penetration in. It's crazy to say this, but where the gunshots were heard, they're just now looking. They just now doing the ground penetration, the cadaver dogs. Where the car was found, they just brought the cadaver dogs out. The car.
Have they hit on anything out
nothing.
There?
They redid this. They redid the car. The car. They took it back to the lab with updated DNA technology. Still nothing. And I don't know. I
mean, it's been so long.
That's right.
Who's
everything.
Touched it. What's been done to it?
That's right.
Where it's been stored this whole time.
Right. It's at the compound, at the impound in Columbia.
It has been there the whole time.
It's been there the whole time since they found it in 2003. So the car is still there, and but they use the cadaver dogs on the car. Nothing.
Will the department allow other outside assistance, the FBI
and tried that. They said no. They said, I don't remember what their excuse was about it. They said, I don't remember. They said that they don't believe the FBI would even get involved in a case like this. But I don't know how true that is.
It's worth trying.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Trying. Yeah, they won't do it. Because I even said, can you all give this case to, a choice, like a private investigator, my choice? They were like, no, we're not going to give. They don't want to get rid of the case. Right. So that's why I'm like, are they trying to hide something or what? And then the people that are working on it now, they only work 1 or 2 days a week because they're retired law enforcement. They're getting ready to retire again. So it's like a huge turnover,
Yeah.
But I'll say the Richland County Sheriff's Department has done a better job than, originally.
Richland County does have seniority over the case now.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, since 2004-ish, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And is there a detective on the case?
Dottie and Larry Gaines.
Two.
Yes, two. And
how do you feel that they are communicating with you?
They communicate with me. We talk maybe once every 2 or 3 months. I know their schedules are not, they're part-time employees, but they do. We're more of a family. I'll say that. They may not always call and let me know, hey, we have some updates. They may not give me updates when I feel like, okay, well, if you did that, why didn't you let me know? They don't give me updates like that. So I would like to be more in communication with them, but I'll check in at least once or 2 months. Like, hey, we haven't saw each other in 2 months. Let's get a meeting to find out what the updates are,
Right.
Because
Absolutely.
But I feel like, I don't want to be against anyone. I don't want to, fight with any of them. So we're like family,
Right.
I don't mind, just to call you to see how you're doing.
Right.
You have a life too. You're a human being. Law enforcement is not just your life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just try to understand, like, they are doing the best they can. So I don't bother them as much, but I do like to check in like every 1 or 2 or 3 months.
They need to understand that goes both ways too.
Right.
That's
you are
right.
also a grieving family.
That's right.
You also have questions, and you also rely on them as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like, even though this case has been, it feels like 2 or 3 law enforcement, not just the 2 agencies, but it's been gone in so many hands as law enforcement.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You all out here in the public missing, just national organizations, nonprofit organizations, the media, me putting up the yard signs, the flyers, going to different events, being around, other missing persons, families.
Yes.
That's my voice. That's where I feel like I'm getting somewhere.
Right.
It's not really all long. Yeah, I'm not getting it from long. I mean, it's there, but it's really not.
Right.
The support really comes from what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
Because the community is going to be more of a fight. Let's get her justice. Let's get her family justice. That's
community helps push for answers.
There you go.
And sometimes can help light that fire.
That's
and
right.
Get that pressure going.
Yeah.
Are they still currently doing the ground searches?
They are. So anytime they're getting any like tips or anything, because people are emailing tips,
right?
To the sheriff and stuff. So then they'll come out, use the cadaver dogs, and use the ground penetration. Only when they get hints. But they've searched Congaree Rivers and just all places that they feel like, maybe a missing person is here. But I'm thinking to myself, the person who knows the answers is the actual person who did it. What are we guessing? Yeah. I don't like all this guessing games like,
why
go
can't
check
we go back and question?
That's right.
With all these tips coming in.
Yeah.
Are there any places that are coming up multiple times in the tips that you've seen?
No.
Different?
I mean, in the beginning, it was all Sumter. Oh, your son's body, to my dad, your son's body is in this water. Oh, it's over there. It's over here in Sumter. Then when the case became more public, like how it is now people are redirecting their tips in Columbia. So I think it's just people are just trying to guess because they don't know the story. Then when they know the story, then it's more tips in Columbia. Yeah. But I'm mostly getting a lot of people who are psychics, oh, I had a vision that your brother is here. Some of those, I get a lot of those. Yeah. But then I actually have like real people who actually know Mark at that time or my brother at that time and say, hey, I feel because I knew Mark Richardson and I knew what he was doing, I believe this is what could have happened, maybe, possibly. They don't give answers like, hey, I know your brother is here. I know this is what happened.
What do they think? Well, what do they speculate may have happened?
They speculate psychics.
The people that knew him.
Oh, the people that knew him. They said that they know Mark knows what happened.
Right.
That's exactly what they said. They don't know if Mark may have done the crime, but they said they know he was there and they know he knows exactly what happened. Yes, that's exactly what they're saying.
Any idea why he may have said accidental death, what that could have been referring to specifically?
Maybe he had an episode that night
because of his mental state.
Mental state had an episode and mind must have snapped at the wrong time. I don't know. I'm just thinking
there could be
what could he meant? But because I've also thought like, well, shoot, if somebody's going to say that, are they having a mental episode when they're saying that? Or are they actually saying they're trying to tell you that, hey, I kind of had a mental episode at the time that happened, and I'm kind of trying to tell you, but it was an accident. I don't know.
Do you know where else Mark's phone pinged that night besides at the apartment complex?
It must have pinged, I know it pinged at his house. Because law enforcement said, why are you calling Shelton at 9-something when y'all were allegedly together? Mm-hmm. And he said that Shelton couldn't find his phone, so he was trying to call his phone. That's what he said. And then, but the thing is, Mark had 2 cell phones that evening, and they only checked 1. So I have no idea why, and law enforcement was supposed to check it, and they claimed they forgot. Right. So, but yeah, the phone line pinged the first time. Well, one of the few times prior to being the last time, that phone pinged off of the towers at his house and the towers by the Greenbrier Apartments. That was the last pings that they put on the paperwork. Yep.
Do you have any idea where his brother is now? Mark's brother is now?
Yes, I did a background check a couple of years on him, and he was in not Conway. What's this other one? It's near Charlotte. Fort Mill area.
So he's still fairly local.
Yeah, he's nearby, upstate North Carolina, upstate South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And you never heard back from?
I never heard back from any of his family. No. Nope. So I don't know if they're trying to keep him. I don't know. You know how family gets, trying to protect him or whatever. But no, nothing. Not even from the girlfriend. Yep.
That's all I had.
if you could talk to the public and ask them, what can the public do for you?
Oh, you know what? I just want to tell the public, thank you. You know, first and foremost, thank you. Even if you don't do anything else, you've done enough. You know, you've done a lot, and my family sees it just watching our, us on TV, hearing our stories, doing research, keeping updated on us, checking on us, praying for us, supporting us. We appreciate it. Thank you. And then for others who are wanting to know what else more can they do, praying, um, uh, asking, I don't know. I mean, just pray for us, pray that we get the closure, pray that we find the remains from our brother. And if they know any information about the remains of where my brother is, please report it to us at findingsheltonsanders@gmail.com or 803-427-4209. They can remain anonymous, and they can announce who they are. Yeah. And there is a $50,000 cash reward for my brother's remains. My family will be increasing that award. We're not going to stop. Yeah. We're not going to stop until we find my brother's remain. We're hopeful that we can just have his remains home so we can give him a proper burial, Yes. We have a memorial at our home, near our home in front of the church, where we're going to dedicate that land and put a memorial such as this one here for him. And we just want to have, we want to know what happened to our loved one. I feel like we deserve to know the answer. We deserve the answers to the questions that we have, because we never got to say goodbye. We don't know what happened. There was a period of my mom said, I'm not going to eat until I know that he's eating. So it's like, I want that closure for my parents. My parents have suffered for almost 25 years. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just, I just want to have my brother home, and I just want to let the public know to please help us. Please help us find Shelton.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you to you all for everything missing people in America. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for your time and your dedication and your hard, spending your hard time, taking your time out of your day from your families and doing this type of work. We really appreciate it.
We stand behind you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. And thank you so much for being a voice for him. And
Absolutely.
Never giving up.
Thank you.
That is huge. That's
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It definitely is. It makes a big difference.
Thank you.
Really does.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.